Winds of Change. Chapter 1 Discovery. In the small town of Istria, located on the coast of Florida, life flowed in a measured fashion. The sun shone brightly and the waves gently lapped the shore. Here lived Thomas, a 38-year-old architect who had always dreamed of a quiet life and a cozy home. He was married to Emily, whom he had met at university. Their marriage seemed perfect, but over time Thomas began to notice changes in his wife's behavior. One day, after returning from work, he noticed that Emily had become more withdrawn and often spent time with her phone in her hands. Thomas didn't want to believe the worst, but his intuition told him that something was wrong. He decided not to jump to conclusions and try to make sense of the situation. Chapter 2 Disclosure. Several weeks passed, and one day when Emily left to meet her friends, Thomas decided to check her phone. He knew it was wrong, but his curiosity piqued him. He found a correspondence with a man he didn't know. Their messages were full of flirting and hints of a meeting. Thomas's heart clenched with pain. He couldn't believe that his wife was cheating on him. The next morning he confronted Emily. She denied all the accusations at first, but soon confessed. There was no remorse in her eyes, only cold indifference. Thomas felt his world crumbling. He didn't know what to do next. Rather than fly into a rage, he decided to take revenge. Chapter 3 Revenge Plans. Thomas began to make a plan for revenge. He knew that Emily loved her work at the local art gallery and dreamed of organizing an exhibition of her paintings. He decided to use this against her. He began to gather information about her coworkers and friends and how she planned the exhibition. Thomas started talking to one of her work friends, Daniel, who was also in love with Emily. He pretended to support the exhibit and wanted to help with the organization. Daniel was happy to help and often shared new details with Thomas about the exhibit and how Emily was spending time with other men. Chapter 4 Executing the Plan. Thomas began to implement his ideas for organizing the exhibition. He suggested holding it at one of Florida's most popular museums, which was a real opportunity for Emily. She was thrilled with the offer and set about making preparations. However, Thomas was secretly setting things up to make the exhibition a failure. He substituted some paintings with copies that were done ineptly. He also organized several false meetings with potential sponsors who refused to support the project. When the opening day of the exhibition came, Emily was full of hope and expectation. But instead of delight and admiration, she faced criticism and ridicule. People began to leave before the event was over. Emily was in shock. Her dream was shattered before her eyes. Chapter 5 Consequences. After the failure of the exhibition, Emily was depressed. She couldn't understand what had gone wrong. During this time, Thomas continued to support her, pretending to be a caring husband. He saw her suffering and felt satisfaction in his revenge. A few days later, Emily decided to talk to Thomas about what had happened at the exhibition. She was ready to admit her mistakes and even considered starting over. But Thomas was already determined otherwise. Chapter 6 Revelation. On one of their evening walks on the beach, Thomas decided to tell Emily the truth about his revenge. He told her how he felt and how she had betrayed his trust. Emily was shocked. She hadn't expected this turn of events. "You could have just walked away," she said with a bitter chuckle. "Why did you choose revenge?" "Because I couldn't just watch you ruin our lives," Thomas replied. "You chose another man, and I chose revenge." Emily cried. She realized that she had lost not only her husband, but herself as well. Their relationship had been destroyed by betrayal and revenge. Chapter 7 New Horizons. A few weeks after this conversation, Thomas and Emily decided to separate. They both realized that their love was based on illusions and mistrust. Thomas left Istria and moved to another city where he started a new life. Emily stayed in Istria and decided to take up art for real. She started working on new paintings and organizing exhibitions without Thomas's help. As time passed, she realized that revenge did not do her any good, only pain and suffering. Several years passed, and one day Thomas returned to Istria on business. He saw Emily's exhibition in the gallery. Her paintings were full of life and emotion. He realized that she had finally found herself and overcome her fears. Thomas approached her after the exhibition, and they talked about the past. They both learned from their mistakes and realized that revenge only destroys people. They parted peacefully, leaving all the hard feelings behind.